All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are nonstop, never stop here on Sportswire Radio. Most people are coasted into the new year. They've basically done their final goodbyes. They've done all that. No, not us, because I am back for round two today here on Sportswire Radio, and I promise you, this guest is going to be worth it. He is one of the legendary backyard wrestlers here, not only in the tri-state area, but maybe in the country and worldwide. He has been a world champion multiple times, a former RUW heavyweight champion. He was also a Puerto Rican heavyweight champion of the world. Pedro Morales had nothing on our guest. He was also a former RUW tag team champion. Also, he's been a podcaster, actor. He's now going into music and much, much more. I'm excited about this. You're going to be as well. So with wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report, number one global sports show, pro wrestling legend, backyard wrestling champion. He is Courage to Kill, C2K. My friend, welcome aboard.
Thank you, thanks for having me.
Thankful to have you as well, my friend. Obviously, a lot to get into here on Sportswire Radio. And for those that are listening and watching, I find your story so interesting because you have been backyard wrestling, I believe, longer than some wrestling stars have been alive. I mean, 30 years, I believe, we're going on. So we're looking at here the 30th anniversary tour of
Yeah,
C2K
yeah.
coming up here later this year. And I mean, talk about then what got you into backyard wrestling and having you start this journey for those that are listening and watching here on Sports Wire Radio.
What really got me into wrestling was my grandfather. He used to be a wrestling fan, and I remember when I was 5 years old. He used to like grab me in his arms, like, "You're gonna be a wrestler. You're gonna be like them." You know, it got in my head. And next thing you know, it's all happened in 1991. When
Wow.
I was in Puerto Rico, I was like 9 years old.
So I got to ask you that. I mean, you're in Puerto Rico, and obviously we know Puerto Rico is legendary for Pedro Morales, the Colon family, and
Yeah,
the who's
yeah.
who of people. But I mean, you wouldn't think backyard wrestling in Puerto Rico. So what was that like? Because I would imagine backyard wrestling in Puerto Rico has got to be different than, let's say, in New York or Wisconsin or anybody else that does backyard wrestling. So what was that like in Puerto Rico, backyard wrestling?
It's very, very, very different. The rules are different. Everything is different. Basically, we just want to wrestle. You know what I mean? It's like, it's if I had a problem with you, you had a problem with me. Okay, we're gonna take it in the ring. That's how we're gonna take it. You know what I mean? It was like it was not like not like talking. No, oh, you got a problem with me? Get in the ring.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like
All right.
everything was real. Everything was real. Everything was, tables, tables and chairs. Jumping from roofs on off the house is, yeah, very different.
But let me ask you something. I want to give a shout out to Taylor Troots from our friends over at Celebrity Championship Wrestling, who's up very late there in the UK. We obviously say hello to him, but I mean, you're at a young age doing backyard wrestling. You're a very, very young boy. I mean, you're young C2K. And I mean, did you ever have any concerns? Were you scared at all? Because 91 made you a baby. I mean, you were basically a baby doing backyard wrestling. Was there ever concerns in the back of your mind saying, what am I doing here?
Well, I was a daredevil since I was born. You know what I mean? I'm always wanted to, do crazy stuff. So it's like it was no concern. I mean, at first, my first match, I didn't know what I was doing. Like,
Well, I would
I
think so. The first match, everybody's first match, everybody's first anything, they don't know what they're doing, right?
yeah. So I was kind of like messing up a little bit, you know what I mean? But after that, it's okay.
And I have a bunch of comments, so let me get to some people. Adam Morgan, who's with us once again, says, woo. Taylor also says, I like the directness in backyard wrestling. And he also says, I can imagine that style of wrestling shortens careers. And that's a good question. And I want to ask you this question because obviously you've been a backyard wrestler longer than many people have had pro wrestling careers. And you see it. I mean, there were certain wrestlers that started out in backyard wrestling. The Young Bucks, Jeff Hardy were examples.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
so how have you been able then to keep this legendary career going? I mean, like he just said, I mean, this is a style that most people can only do for a certain amount of time. So talk about it.
It's basically it's for your mind. You know,
Hmm.
there's gonna be a lot of problems. You know, a lot of drama, a lot of people that are not gonna like you, gonna hate on you and stuff like that. But if you just keep it in your mind, you know that okay, I got this. I'm gonna keep going, and it's not giving up. Is never. It's not in my vocabulary.
Well, I would think it wouldn't be. I mean, did you ever say to yourself, well, back in 91, hey, I'm going to keep going out there. I'm going to get ready for some wrestling coming up here in 2023. Was it ever something you said, hey, back when you were a little kid back there in Puerto Rico, that, hey, I'm going to go
Uh,
wrestle and, have this legendary career? Was it ever something that crossed your mind or no?
I never thought that I was gonna make it this far.
You didn't.
I never had it in my mind that I wasn't make it this far. You know what I mean? Because when I was young, you know, I have other plans that I want to do. I don't know, be a doctor or something. You know what I mean? But it's like,
That sounds boring compared to what you do in the ring. I mean, being a doctor sounds a hell of a lot more less interesting than being a wrestler. Because I've interviewed
exactly,
hundreds and hundreds of backyard wrestlers and pro wrestlers, and I think much rather be a wrestler making almost peanuts than being a doctor. That's
exactly.
just my point. But hey, I mean,
Hey,
so
I like yes. That's the point right
well, that's a very, very fair point. I mean, so what leads you then to come into the United States and continuing this career? Because you started out back in Puerto Rico. So
Yes, yes.
talk to me about the turnover then from coming to Puerto Rico to the United States.
Well, I just came here for vacation.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
it was not a plan, not a what it wasn't a plan to stay. But when I came to Rochester, you know, I ended up staying. You know, I met up some of the guys, in RUW, Rochester Underground Wrestling. You know, me my first debut. Ended up becoming a world heavyweight champion on my first debut. So it's like,
Now, was that the RUW championship that you had won? And
yes,
talk to me then about being a world champion. What did that mean to you in being a world heavyweight champion? Because that's a big responsibility. I don't care if it's
it is.
backyard wrestling, Mickey Mouse, professional wrestling, MMA, you name it. So talk to me about that RUW championship that you won.
Oh man, let me tell you something, man. When I became RUW heavyweight champion for the first time, I was like, wow, you know, this is big. You know, it's like a you know when you eat a candy and you taste it and it's very good.
Right.
You know, and next thing you know, it's like you just want more and more and more and more and more. That's
Mm.
how it was. Like
Did
I just wanted more and more and more.
Mm. Oh well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I have to ask you a silly question. You're probably going to chuckle
Yeah.
when I ask this to you. But did you get to keep the world championship and carry it around with you when you won the title? I mean, what was the was there what's that like?
Well, when I won the Warriors Day Heavyweight Champion, you know, like I could have just taken it to my house and keep it. You know what I mean? But I have to come back with it, you know, and defend it the next day because we was wrestling every single day. You know what I mean? And it was like, okay, you know, we could take it to your house, you know, but yeah, you gotta bring it back, you know, and defend it the next day. And that's what I was doing, you know. I just made sure that I brought him, that I brought him back to my house the next day.
So was that kind of maybe like a bigger responsibility than people may realize because you were defending the title as frequently as you were defending? You weren't one of these guys. How can I put it? Like Roman Reigns these days defends his universal titles basically once every few months. I mean,
Yeah,
we've seen MJF so far only defend the title once. I mean, Josh Alexander in Impact Wrestling isn't defending his title very often because he's now
yeah.
basically barred between him and Bully Ray until Hard to Kill. I mean, Jacob Fatu and MLW, another example. These guys aren't defending the titles every single day. I mean, did that make it a bigger burden or responsibility for you that you had to defend the title as often as you did?
He made it a bigger responsibility I felt like it was my duty to do it. I
Wh-
had to do it. And to be the top dog, you gotta do what you gotta do. And if you got to defend the title every single day, you have to do it. And just to keep it there, to keep it on my waist, I have to do that.
Okay, well, were you a shoulder or a waist champion? Because some wrestlers like like on the shoulder, others like to wear the title. How did you like to have the championship?
Shoulder.
Why did I have a feeling you were going to answer it that way? Why did I have a feeling that that was going to be the case? But did you feel pressure at all that you had to defend the title as much as you were? Because some wrestlers I interviewed, and I interviewed a wrestler earlier this year, legendary wrestler, a guy Reynaldo. He'd won his first championship in a decade, and I would always ask him, Reynaldo, you hadn't been a champion in so long, and was there pressure on keeping the title? And you come out of the box here, you win this championship, and I know you've been a champion a couple of other times, but did you always feel pressure in keeping that title? Because nobody wants to be an ex-champion, everybody wants to be a current champion. So talk to me about the pressure in being a world champion.
It was a lot of pressure because you become a target. Every eye is on you when you had that title, especially the main one, the big one, you know, on your shoulders. You know what I mean? It was a lot of pressure, because it's like everybody wasn't lined up. Everybody want to be the champion. So defending it every day. It was, yeah, it was a lot of pressure.
What was the difference in being an RUW heavyweight champion versus, let's say, a Puerto Rican heavyweight champion? What were the differences in those titles?
It's the difference was is that when you had the RGW heavyweight champion, you feel like you're on the top. You feel like you're on top of the mountain. Puerto Rican champion, is kind of that too, but it's very very different. You know, um, I didn't mind to lose the Puerto Rican champion, but the heavyweight champion, I'm like, nah, okay, I can't. That's my baby right there. I cannot do that.
But I would have thought, though, it would have been maybe in a way a bigger deal to be a Puerto Rican heavyweight champion because obviously you have the Puerto Rican heritage. You were
Yes,
from Puerto
yes,
Rico. And I would think it would mean something in just kind of like, okay, well, I'm representing not just a company, I'm
exactly,
representing all the Puerto Rican ancestors and people and fans, and so you
yeah,
felt that you rather have been an RUW champion than a
exactly,
Puerto Rican heavyweight champion. But why
exactly.
though? Why though?
The re-
Because go ahead, jump in.
the reason why is that as a Puerto Rican, for example, being destroyed by a hurricane and just getting back up. That's what it means to be a Puerto Rican. It means to getting back up and fighting for what you love and getting it back, getting back in your feet. And for me, losing the Puerto Rican champion is like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna get it back. I'm gonna get up and get it back. And still once again be the Puerto Rican champion. You know, but RUW heavyweight champion, it's like, okay, I'm the big dog, I'm the top dog, and if I get knocked out, I'm gonna go all the way that back down to prime myself out to be, the top dog again.
All right, fair enough. Here, as we are with the legendary C2K backyard wrestling legend, and you're going to see him coming up later this year. We'll get into that in a little while. Of course, we are going over his legendary career. Of course, started all the way back in 1991. Basically, here 30 plus years he's been in this, and he's still going out there. He's thriving. He's getting ready for big matches ahead. Also got some new music out there. He's also involved
Oh
in
yes.
SBWIC and my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I am the host of the Sports Report and the man behind Sportswire Radio. And I did see we have some new music. I mean, talk about the inspiration for the new theme song.
Tell you the truth, it all started in an app I call Rap Fame. And I started rapping, just to try it on. And that's people say, oh, we like it, you really good. I'm like, okay, So so it's like, okay, maybe I heard myself rapping, and I said, you know what, I am real good. So it's like I started rapping more. Link up with one of my friends. Cannot say everything yet because everything is construction.
Yeah, don't
But
say anything that'll incriminate you. Please don't.
but you guys will see. You guys will see when it does come out. We do have a lot of songs that we wrote. So hopefully January. Hopefully.
All right, I'll tell you what, but let me go back in a more general way because you spoke about music, and this was leading into something I was going to speak about later on. But was that something that you ever wanted to do? Was to go out and rap? And who were some of maybe your inspirations in terms of rapping that has led you to obviously now this new venture?
Tupac.
Okay.
Tupac.
Okay. That makes sense, right? Tupac is obviously, when you think about the Mount Rushmore of lyricists and also rappers, that obviously is somebody that comes to mind. America's Most Wanted, and you think about all the stuff, Dear Mama, and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
you look about his career, and so that's basically your go-to person is Tupac. Do you see? You're almost like the Tupac of backyard wrestling. Everybody, listen, all eyes on C2K. Almost like all eyes on me when it came to
That's for me.
Tupac. I bet you didn't think I would have knew some of those Tupac references, but I
No.
actually, I actually did. But that's why
Yeah,
I'm
sure,
in this
man.
as long. That's why I'm in this as long as I've been. Any favorite Tupac songs that maybe inspire you a little bit? Any of your favorite Tupac stuff before we come back to the wrestling?
Hail Mary.
Okay. Yeah, Hail Mary's a good one. Hail Mary's a good one. Yeah, I mean, I would have liked something a little bit more upbeat, something a little bit more up tempo, but I can certainly live with that. I mean, obviously, look, you're the guy that's obviously doing the music, and you kind of have an idea of what's good and what's not, and obviously, we'll find out. I would have thought maybe Hit 'Em Up or something like that, maybe something a little bit more
Yeah, I like
upbeat.
that too. Hit him up. Yeah, that's another one.
All about
That's
C2K,
another
all
one.
about you, all about you. That's another good one. I can see that. I can see that. But we'll certainly come back to some of that. But talk about some of the wrestlers that you've been in the ring with that have certainly been a part of this legendary ride and these big wars that you had. I mean, who were some of the wrestlers that you've had
I
some
could,
big wars with?
I could talk about John The Rock Jackson. He's my brother.
I know John
Um,
the Rock Jackson very well. Not surprised at all. You mentioned John the Rock Jackson, and
exactly.
talk about John the Rock Jackson because I think I have something to say about him after you have finished. So go ahead.
Yeah. We did had a great rivalry in RUW. In CWE, with what this is how it happened. We wrestled in CWE,
Hmm.
Championship Wrestling Entertainment for like a whole year.
Okay.
2002, we went to RUW, Rochester Underground Wrestling,
Okay.
and we had we were tag team champions before. We had this group named C2K and Rock Connection going on.
All right. Go
um,
ahead.
you
I'm
know,
listening.
yeah, we went with great tag teams. We did have a little rivalry going on. Uh, Another person that I want to mention is name is Matic, the Unstoppable Beast. Uh,
Big name, big guy.
yes, yes. But right now he's do pro wrestling. He knows as Matic, the John Lion of the West.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was a big match that rivalry lasted for 11 years.
Wow. I mean, let's
That's a,
talk about that for 11 years. You think about legendary wars in wrestling history, and they last maybe a year. If you're lucky, you get 2 years out of it. But 11 years, and I'm trying to think. I mean, Austin and McMahon basically lasted for the better part of 3 years before we saw the McMahon Austin alliance. I mean, you think about Rock and Austin, maybe it was on and off for 2 years, but to have an 11-year war, I mean, how is that possible?
well, to tell you the truth, we didn't plan it to have a rivalry. It just happened.
Huh.
We started as tag team champions, and he had this idea that he was going to go heel, and I just stay face, and then next thing it just started like that. We didn't know that it was going to last for 11 years, and it did. It went for like from 2002 all the way to 2012.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I guess it was that intense, right? Because you think about it,
Yes,
to
it
have
was
that to
very
keep going.
intense. It was very intense. It was like the world heavyweight title was changing between me and him the whole time. If not, I didn't beat him. He beat me. It was like that.
So when this is happening, let's say you're in the middle of that time frame, was there ever anything that crossed your mind and said, "Hey, I want to finish it at this point," or just walk me through that?
There were many times that I want to just end it. Like I don't know. And I'll be telling, I said, let's end it, let's end it, let's end it, But you say, let's keep going, because we felt like our rivalry was holding RUW.
Hmm.
We felt like our rivalry was the glue to RUW because there was a lot of people leaving RUW. There was a point that it was just me and Matic for a whole year. It was just two of us wrestling, and we felt like it was basically uh, an obligation to have that rivalry to keep something alive.
Hmm. Did that make an extra? I know I'd asked you about the question already about being a world champion, but in terms of that responsibility, and I could see that RUW meant a lot to you. Was there that extra responsibility to kind of keep the company afloat because of what you guys were doing? I mean, talk to me about that.
Yeah, we felt we felt that it was our responsibility, to keep RUW alive because it's something that all of us created. With John the Rock Jackson, we all created RUW, and it felt like it was our soul. It was part of us, and we felt like if it dies, we would have been the same. That's how we felt.
And speaking of John the Rock Jackson, I do have an announcement that I'm sure you'll be curious to hear that.
Mm,
On January the 9th, we are going to have him on 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time.
nice.
John the Rock Jackson is going to be with us on Sportswire Radio, and I'm sure we're going to be speaking a lot about you. And anything you'd like to
Ooh.
say to Mr. Jackson about that breaking news that we're going to certainly get, I'm sure, his side of things? I mean, anything you'd like to say to Mr. Jackson before his appearance coming up on January the 9th?
Bring it.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've seen shots fired. Could we see the beginning of another war between C2K and John the Rock Jackson? The C2K and Rock connection was legendary, but this war, if it happens, we are certainly going in to 2023 with a bang here on Sportswire Radio. And something tells me here that the legendary C2K has a lot on his mind. And my name again is the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you like what you hear from Sportswire Radio, do give us a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. And 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player in full C2K coverage, full Rochester wrestling coverage, backyard wrestling. We cover it all here, and those are some of the places you can go to. And we are here with the legendary C2K. And C2K, I wanted to ask you this question. I know you've referenced all the big championships, some of the legendary wars, but I was curious on what do you think has changed in backyard wrestling from back in the early 90s to where we are today? What do you think has been some of the big changes?
A lot has changed in backyard wrestling. It's just basically a lot of drama going on. Like when I started backyard wrestling, it was not none of that all that drama on it and all that stuff. It was everything we loved each other because we was together doing something that we loved to do. Like we nobody was worrying about the other person's legacy or something like that. Or you better than me, I better. It wasn't like that. And that's what's going on right now. And it's like, it's kind of like a turn off. You know what I mean? But
So, what do you think could change it to go back to where it was back in the 90s and everybody was just thinking about focusing on doing what they love and just being able to go out there and do the things that maybe are important? So, what do you think needs to change?
we need to learn how to get along. We need to learn how to be in the same page. And how to love each other. And it's not about us. It's about the audience uh that spend their time sitting on a couch or even at their job or whatever they are, They take the time to see us wrestle. We all need to learn how to stick together and love what we always love to do. It's backyard wrestling.
Do you think that that there's a stigma with some about backyard wrestling, and that is maybe contributed to it because with some wrestlers, some people look at it and say, "Oh, backyard wrestling, they're not wrestlers, they're not trained." And there are those that do look at backyard wrestling the way I look at it and believe it is still some form of wrestling and it should be respected because we do work with a company in Appleton, Wisconsin called Wrestling Championship Entertainment.
Exactly.
That is one of the premier backyard wrestling companies. I mean, but do you think that the stigma plays into it with maybe some of the unfortunate things that happen, or what's your thoughts on that?
It does. It does. I think there could be a change. There's hope.
All
There's
right,
hope.
well, there's always hope. Listen, there's always hope. Listen, I mean, certainly there is always
Exactly.
hope because C2K is out there. He's doing great things, and speak about then for us maybe what we can expect from you in 2023. I understand that RZW is ahead, and maybe we're going to see you back out there, and maybe talk about what could be in store for C2K in 2023.
What I could say is to everybody to watch out because there's a new C2K coming.
What do you
More
mean a new
hungrier.
C2K? Oh, a new C2K. What do you mean? Talk about that.
There's a new C2K coming. And I don't do spoiler alerts. You know what I
Oh,
mean? But you guys will see it. You guys will see it when once I'm in the ring. You guys will see the new C2K. You guys will know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? It's all about that I am more hungrier and I want something, I'm gonna get it. So watch out.
ooh, ladies and gentlemen, I believe you've heard a first here on Sportswire Radio. We are going to see a new, more hungrier C2K Courage to Kill coming up here in 2023. And RZW, you're going to get that crack. You're going to get that inside first-hand knowledge over it. And certainly C2K is ready. He looks primed and poised for a huge, huge year ahead. And C2K, I did want to ask you, I understand that we're returning to the ring here after a little bit of a break, and talk to me about that. I mean, in terms of now being back in the ring, I believe this is going to be the first time coming up here in a few years, and talk about what's going to go through your mind when you return to the ring.
Yes, we are going to wrestle on April 2023. Hopefully by April 20, 2023. It's gonna be the first show of RSBW. I mean RSBW. RWA of RWA. It's gonna be the first show of RWA. It's not only the first show, it's the grand opening of RWA.
Okay.
Um, it's gonna be big. We might have some people coming from different companies to wrestle in that show. So it's gonna be great. Um, by me returning to the ring, I know there's gonna be flashbacks. There's gonna be memories coming to my mind. You know what I mean? And he just like I don't know. It's just that mind that I say I'm back. I'm back here. You know what I mean? Because there was a point in my life that I just didn't want to do back wrestling anymore. And the reason that I'm back is because the fans, everywhere I went, there was I said, okay, it's okay. When you gonna come back? When you gonna come back? You know what I mean? And I have people, stop me and everything and say, are you gonna come back? And I said, you know what? I think it's time for me to come back. It's doing one more time.
So is it a combination of, let's say, a new company and RWA and the fans saying C2K, C2K, we need you, and
Yes,
so
yes,
is that kind of maybe why it's going to be a newer, a hungrier, and I would even say maybe a more improved C2K coming up.
yes. That's the reason why. My fans, the whispers in the dark, my fans, they was the reason why that I'm here. I'm here for them. And to show them that C2K still got it.
How much do the fans motivate you here in this comeback?
A lot. They motivate me a lot. It's crazy. I feel the love. I feel the support. Like it was none other. Like sometimes with tears in my eyes. Sometimes.
Well, don't cry on us here on Sportswire. I
No,
always
no,
tell people,
no.
don't do that for us because I know obviously, certainly, we don't want to make anybody in that kind of way. But that
Exactly.
really has to inspire you, though, that knowing that
Yes.
there's so many fans out there remember the legendary wars with John the Rock Jackson, and remember all the legendary wars that you've been to. Like, where have you been? And I mean, was there ever let's say a thought or maybe a doubt in your mind, let's say during COVID, that I had wrestled my last match and I'm done? Was there ever that kind of thought that came across your mind at all?
I don't think it was the COVID. I had an injury in 2019. I broke my hand at my job, and
Ooh.
that was like that was a doubt in me that they were saying that my hand was not going to be the same anymore. Therapy and stuff like that. That was like basically a doubt for me, and I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna make it out there like this. But and it's fine. So I'm ready to fight.
I mean, talk about the injury, though. I mean, how are you feeling since that injury? Because I just saw your hand just now, and your hand still looks not
Yeah.
too good. I mean, talk about how serious this injury was. I mean,
Well, it was so serious that the first time that I had the injury, the doctor wanted to cut it off.
oh my
Yes.
god, oh my god.
It was very it was big. My finger was very big. You know, it was big. It was swelling, and it's like I don't think your hand's gonna make it. That's what they keep saying. But by the grace of God, here it is.
Well, how do you feel
Um,
now? How is the hand feeling now?
yeah, it's good right now. I still feel some kind of pains. I had to wear a glove, to pressure my hand and stuff like that. But it's doing great. It's doing great. I'm still doing my therapy.
Is there any concerns that when you get back in the ring that the hand could be something? Because remember, hand in wrestling is important. I mean, the
Yes,
first thing that
yes,
crosses my mind is I don't know if you remember this, but Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful,
yeah,
had basically an injury where he basically had a shoulder that he never really got the surgery on because he was in a big legendary feud, of course, with Hulk Hogan at the time. And you're talking
yes,
about in the heyday of Hulkamania, and you're talking about a major payday. He never got the injury to heal properly, and he kept going through
mm,
this injury in wrestling, and you would see his shoulder and it was like deformed. It was like a short
yeah, yes,
shoulder,
it was.
unfortunately. I mean, is there a concern for you in the same way that you're not going to be able to come
Yes,
back the way you want?
it is kind of concern, but I'm not trying to think about that, because you always gotta think about positivity, and it's just like I'm here to do something that I love to do. And if I have to die for something that I love, I'm gonna do it
Well, don't
because
don't say
that's
you're
that's
going
what
to
it
die
is.
on us. Well, we don't want you to die out there. We certainly
No,
want
no,
you
no,
to
no.
we want you to do the best you can out there, and we'll certainly
Exactly.
hope for the best, and we'll certainly wait anxiously for April
Yes.
2023 and whatever else. And in SBW, talk to me though about SBW because you kind of mentioned them very quickly.
RSBW, I don't have no problem with them. Like this they're really great wrestlers too in there. I have some issues with some of them. Because every time that C2K does something, they want to laugh and stuff like that. But it's nothing to think about that. It's like I have no problem with them. I love them all. And C2K was going to be in RSBW for some reason that never happened. But that's what it is.
Well, we'll certainly figure that all out here, and also wanted to make another announcement. We're going to have somebody else that you may know coming up here next week, next Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Mr. Vinny Anarchy. And I know that that's a
Yeah.
name that you know very well. And anything you want to share for us here on Sportswire Radio about the debut of another legend, somebody you know very well here in the upstate wrestling scene, Mr. Vinny Anarchy.
Yes. I know of him. He's a great guy. And I can't wait to see him. Can't wait to see him wrestle. I mean, brother, you got this, man.
All right. Well, we'll certainly anxiously see what happens there with that, and that'll be this coming Tuesday. That'll be our first interview of the new year in
Yeah.
2023. So excited! Well, listen, the year's almost over now, and you're our
Almost.
second. You're our second to last interview because tomorrow night I have one more interview, which will be 4 p.m. Eastern time here in the New York area. That
Oh,
is, of
wow.
course, with the legendary multiple belt champion, the Irish Wonder Chris Murphy. That'll be 4 p.m. Eastern time, 9 p.m. British Standard Time, and of course. The Irish Wonder is a part of our friends over at Nonstop Action Wrestling who have announced their most recent event coming up here on February the 11th, 2023. We saw shots fired tonight here on Sportswire Radio in our first show with Joel Cobra of the Modern Day Mafia as he wants a piece of the society. We'll figure that all out, but we'll get Chris Murphy's thoughts on that. But in the meantime, we are here with the legendary C2K. I gotta ask you, why do they call you C2K, Courage to Kill? Why do they call you that?
Um, since I was a teenager, I was a daredevil. You know, I had the
Oh,
courage
okay.
to do whatever. You know, and it was like, you know what, you got the courage to kill. You know what I mean? So I said, okay, you know, and that came in mind when I created C2K Courage to Kill. It was just like that.
Who were some of your big influences that wanted you to be that daredevil that we've all fallen in love with here?
It was my father and my mother. They always like, they just like, we're seeing in you. You know, you do the best. You know, you're the greatest one. You know, go out there and just do what you gotta do. You know what I
Oh, okay.
mean?
I would not have
Yeah.
thought that because I'm obviously a longtime wrestling fan. I've interviewed a lot of wrestlers, and you don't get that necessarily sometimes with parents. Parents kind of look at wrestling, especially in the 90s, they looked at it like, well, I don't know, maybe you do something else, focus on school and
Yeah.
other things. Your family, you're saying they were like, yeah, go for it. You're C2K,
Yes.
just do it. Wow, you know what? And that's why you are the legend full of so much energy. And I also understand, Mr. C2K, that you've done some acting. I've seen you in a commercial out there for a local restaurant. Let's talk about that experience.
This it happened early this year. You know, my cousin, she owns a bar in Buffalo.
Okay.
And it's just like she came to me, she said, I want you to do that commercial for me. Can you do it for me, please? I'm like, sure. And I, had a camera in front of me, and then boom, it was magic.
Was there ever any, maybe, I guess, thoughts that, hey, when I do a wrestling promo, it's kind of similar to a commercial? Any kind of thoughts on that?
It's kind of similar as a pro. Yes, a promo. It's kind of similar to that because it's like you in front of the camera. I mean, in a promo you talk about where you're gonna wrestle, the day you're gonna wrestle, who you're gonna wrestle with, for what title you're gonna wrestle with. But that the difference is that you are promoting not yourself, but you're promoting a wrestling. You're promoting a commercial.
Is there a desire to do maybe more of that in the future? Is that something that you'd like to
Yes.
do more?
Yes, it really opened that door for me to act. And which I didn't mention it, but there is a movie that I'm writing. It's
Okay.
called Ben. It's called Ben Alpha Blood. It's me as a vampire killing people.
Wow, boy. So now when will we is this in production or what's the status on this on the C2K movie?
It's been in production right now. Just writing. I just finished writing the movie. It's my first movie that I'll be doing. So it's like, well, not my first movie because I I have been I in 2004. Me and the rest of the IGW, we did this movie called Jason Out in the Ghetto.
Wow, okay. As in Jason Voorhees out in the ghetto?
Yes.
Whoa, so let's talk about that for a second. So apparently you're in the legendary Jason Voorhees movie, Jason Out in the Ghetto, and I mean, what was that like? Jason out in the ghetto. I mean, Jason, I don't think would be afraid of the ghetto, right? He wouldn't be like some other
I
people that
know.
would go and
Jason was not afraid of the ghetto. I don't spoil you. I don't get spoilers, but I know The Rock's gonna talk about it because he was Jason.
Well, I'm gonna
He was
ask him about. I'm
Jason.
gonna ask Mr. Jackson about this. I'm gonna. Was Mr. Vinny Anarchy in this movie?
No, it was a lot of people like the Matic, the Unstoppable Beast.
Okay, Matt, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, it was some other people doing it. Yeah,
All
it
right, so
was.
we'll definitely. I'll talk about this with Mr. Jackson. I'll get his thoughts on it and see if there's any footage out there. If I can find it, I'll certainly try to see if I can watch
I
that as
think
well.
there,
And
I think there is, I think there is, but I think the Rock and Do Casino can talk about that more about it.
okay, I'll let
I think
Mr.
there is.
Jackson talk about that rather than you.
Mhm.
So that's certainly fair. We are here
Yeah.
on Sportswire Radio with, of course, the legendary C2K who broke it here for us on Sportswire Radio. He is returning to the ring. We know it's going to be triumphantly here for the first time in nearly 4 years, coming up in April 2023 for our friends over at the RWA. Very, very excited about that to see what happens with him. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, and we are speaking all things related to Mr. C2K, the multi-talented legendary C2K. Of course, you've seen him as an actor. You're seeing him soon as a rapper. You've seen him, of course, as a wrestling star. He does it all. And speaking of things you've also done, I know we have the C2K Confidential podcast out there that, of course,
Yeah.
everybody has watched and listened to. So talk about doing the podcast with the Confidential podcast shows. I mean, talk about
The,
what that was like.
before it was a podcast, it was a show that I created in 2003 in RUW, Rochester Underground Wrestling. It was a talk show. I was the heel that time in 2003,
Mm.
and so next thing you know, it became a podcast. It happened after I created a social talk podcast. You know what? Let me create a podcast about backyard wrestling. About yeah.
Was there ever, let's say, an adjustment that you had to make in doing your own podcast and speaking about things versus, let's say, being in the ring where everything happens so fast where you have to go out and explain things to people? Talk to me about that.
No, I really just wanted to people to get to know C2K better. Get to know who C2K is and what C2K is all about. Because there was a lot of commotion, going on in C2K's life with a lot of people. And I just like basically, it was not explaining myself. Basically, I just wanted to, to tell them why I was doing things and why I was doing this. Basically just say, this is me. This is C2K, Courage to Kill. Welcome to my work.
Let me ask you a question. Was there anything that you would have liked to have done differently in your career so far? I know that there was a time that you were trying to be a professional wrestler. This was something we spoke
Yes.
about off the air. So, talk to me maybe about that. Is there or anything that you thought maybe you would have liked to have done differently in your career, if so?
Yes, in 2013, I was training for for pro wrestling, and which was something very different than backyard wrestling, and training in that, like my dream was to be a pro wrestler. Didn't happen for some reason. Didn't happen, but I really wanted to change my character. I wanted to recreate myself once again and show a different side of C2K. Not only in backyard wrestling, but in pro wrestling as well.
Have you felt that you have done? I mean, do you feel your career has been successful even though the professional wrestling kind of hit a fork in the road? I mean, how do you feel about your career overall? I know the book hasn't been written yet on your career now that you're coming back, but how do you feel your
Exactly.
career has been at least? Go ahead, talk to me.
I feel like I had done everything that I did. That I did. I felt completed. You know, and that's my like I just could have just go ahead and retire and just sit down on my couch and just watch on TV. But I'm basically back because I'm just not for me. It's for the fans. It's for everybody over here. That day is watching. I came here for you and to show you that hey, I'm not gonna tell you.
All right, fair enough, and certainly I could understand some of those different things, and I'm curious on what are your goals for 2023?
Well, I got many goals. I want to do backyard wrestling crossover. I want to go to TBW, Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, and face the Atomic Titan.
Oh,
Uh,
so So Tennessee, we're actually going across the country. Then, I mean, is
Yeah.
this something that has been in the works for a while? I mean, talk to me about going to Tennessee.
It has been a work. I have talked to many people in TBW with the directors of borders, the border directors of TBW, and something that they want me to do too. They asked me, when you're gonna come to TBW, we want you in TBW, and that's for me is going to take my career to the higher level. And that's going to be a change for C2K coverage.
Is there any places that you've wrestled before that you've liked to wrestle again, or places you haven't got a chance to wrestle in terms of places like the states, geography, companies, anything like that?
I would love to wrestle on I think it's called Hellfire Wrestling with the Gunshot Anarchy.
Okay.
I want to wrestle with TVW. I want to wrestle in where I could put C2K. I want to face new talents, different people. I want to show that to the world that C2K is the best.
Do you feel then you have something to prove here this year now that this is the comeback? And talk to me about that.
I want to prove to people that I still got it. I want to prove people wrong. After all these many years when C2K was not wrestling, there was people, like talking bad about C2K, and I'm not only to prove people wrong, but I wanted to shut a lot of people's mouth. That's you know what you said what you said about me, but I'm here in the ring facing people. My other goal is to become the RWA heavyweight champion.
This would almost be a big deal, I would have to think, because you're going back to the mountain and you're reclaiming something that you haven't been a world champion in a while. And this would have
Yes.
to be a big deal, I would think, no?
Yes, it's very big deal for me to be back on the top. It's been a long time I haven't been on the top. This is typically time to be back on the top.
Are you concerned though that talent are going to want to mark you out, and they know that you're injured, and they know that basically that you're certainly unknown in terms of what you can do in the ring? I mean, are you concerned that wrestlers might be putting a bullseye on you?
No, now I have no concern at all. You want someone C2K? Come and get me.
I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I think that that could certainly be a mark that C2K is putting out there. And I want to give a shout out to another one of our favorite wrestlers, of course, our very dear friend, Mr. BMD, coming off a very successful victory from our friends over at Colory Championship Wrestling. And he had successfully defeated the CEO of the company, James Barris, at the Colory Christmas Carol sold out show. It was really one of the premier matches, and it was an emotional win because BMD was able to do it in front of his family and really able to show people that he's here to stay in CCW and a top contender. And we had him on Sportswire Radio not too long ago, and I have no doubt that we're going to bring him back on very, very soon. So shout out as always to all of our UK fans and, of course, our UK wrestlers out there like the legendary BMD from our friends over at Colory Championship Wrestling. And I'm curious, C2K, if there's one or two moments in your career that stand out most so far.
There was one moment that really stand out so far that I would never forget was the retirement of Matic, the Unstoppable Beast, in RUW. That was a moment because I was his last match, in 2012, and it was very emotional for me because I love him as a brother. Didn't know that he was going to retire that day. It was a
Hmm.
surprise. Because when I was facing for the heavyweight champion, I beat him. It was 60 minute Iron Man match, and when I beat him, he went right in the ring. Started shedding tears. We said, well, why he's crying? We didn't know what he was crying for. And next thing you know, he said that he was retiring. Came to me, gave me a hug. I'm like, wow, that was a really great moment.
Wow. Okay, that's kind of neat. I mean, you never know what can happen. I guess wrestlers just say, you know what, I want to call it. And I mean, would you have done it differently if it was you, or do you feel it was the right way he retired?
It would be differently. It
But
would be
we're
different.
not ready to retire anytime soon, though,
We're
right?
not
We're not
ready to
ready.
retire anytime
Okay.
soon.
We're definitely not going to answer that question just yet, but I have a very
Not
good
yet.
feeling that C2K is going to have a lot of big things ahead here, and certainly he's
Yes.
going to be a part of things over at RSBW, RWA, TWA, Tennessee Wrestling Alliance, I believe you also mentioned. So a lot of great things ahead. The legendary C2K, who's got a lot going on. And is there anything else that you want to share for us here tonight on Sportswire Radio before we get to closing thoughts and ask you another question?
Um,
Anything else that we should know?
Not that I know of.
Well, I've got something for you though.
Oh, you
I've
got
got some.
something. Okay.
Yep, BMD says get yourself to the UK lad. Now he's a part of Coloring Championship Wrestling, so
Oh, he is.
C2K. Yeah, I just said he defeated the CEO of the company. I mean, he's a big deal, BMD, and he's a big boy, a big
Uh,
man. If you see his photo,
hey.
I mean, maybe the UK. Have you been to the UK before?
No, I would love to be. And guess what, buddy? You would be my first match.
Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, for you, C2K, make sure you get in touch with James Barris, the
Yes, I
promoter and
will.
owner of the company. He's on Facebook at James Barris. I'm friends with him. You tell him I sent you, and I'm sure that Mr. Barris will be certainly delighted to see that. And of course, a lot of great things that you are doing, and certainly everybody wants to follow the RWA. You can do that, I believe, on Facebook, and you can also follow Backyard Wrestling groups on Facebook as well. And also, he has another comment for you from BMD. He says, "Been watching what you do, man, and it's incredible, and it would be an honor to tear the ring with you, bro." So listen, this could be at the beginning of some big things. You
Let's
gotta
do
make
it.
sure get yourself to the UK there. Make sure you get out there,
I will. I
C2K.
will. Brother. Brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's an honor, man. I watch everything that you have done too. You are a great wrestler, man, and we really going to tear the ring out.
I
You
tell you
really
what,
gonna
and I
do it.
can't wait, and I can't wait to cover it on Sportswire Radio. I can't wait to talk about it. And I have one more question for you before I get to closing thoughts here, C2K. What advice would you give to any up and coming wrestler, whether it's a backyard wrestler or a professional wrestler? What advice would you give to them?
Don't ever give up. Follow your heart. Follow your dreams. Make them real.
Would that be the advice you would have told yourself, let's say back in 91?
Yes.
But okay, all
Yes,
right. You
I
know
will.
what? I can respect that. I can certainly respect that. And BMD says we will tear it up, and then whoever wins buys the beer. So that means, listen, we'll
All right,
find
let's do
out.
it. Let's go for
You
it.
know what you gotta do. You know what you gotta do, C2K. We'll certainly find out if we see all of that here. And of course, very, very excited about our friends over at Coloring Championship Wrestling. I want everybody to follow them on Facebook at Coloring Championship Wrestling. They're also on Instagram as well. And the company just had yet another sellout. I believe it's the 14th or 15th consecutive sellout that the company has had. And every show they've had is sold out. And the Coloring Christmas Carol, which was probably the company's best show yet, it was streamed live on Facebook. So you can find that on the Coloring Championship Wrestling page. And you can find out more information. Also, C2K is a part of some great things as well. And I turn it over to you now, my friend, because I know you're a busy man. You're getting ready for interviews, movie scripts to write, commercials, big new rap
Yes.
music, and all different things. So I want to
Yep.
give you the floor now. Give you some closing thoughts and anything that you want to plug, share, say. The floor is yours, Mr. Courage to Kill.
C2K all day. You want me? Come and get me. But I love you all from my heart.
Can we
C2K all
find?
day.
Can we plug a YouTube or a Facebook that people can find you on?
C2K 585. You will see all my old matches, new matches coming on. C2K 585.
That's on YouTube, obviously. That's the YouTube page we
It's
can
on
find you
YouTube.
on.
It's on
And
YouTube.
Facebook, we can certainly find out more information on you. I've obviously tagged you here on
Yeah.
this. So make sure you get the. I've been watching a lot of the old clips. I've watched the interviews. I've watched some of the promos you've done. I mean, there's a lot there. The C2K YouTube page, it's one of the premier wrestling pages around. I mean, it is right up there. I would definitely make sure it's my one-stop source. Forget about AEW, forget about WWE YouTube pages. You go to that C2K page, and maybe we'll see C2K merchandise in the future. You know that I'm buying it, and
Yeah.
everybody else should be as well. So could be
Yeah.
something in the works here, my friend. But my
Yes.
friend, it has been a tremendous honor And I can't thank you enough for
Thank
this
you.
great opportunity. I am looking forward to more interviews with you, more maybe weekly
Yes,
shows, monthly shows.
me
There is
too.
a whole endless amount of possibilities. You are definitely the courage to kill. I hope that you have a happy new year. I hope it's a safe. I know where you are in Buffalo, near Buffalo, has been just a massive storm and blizzard, and people are still trying to dig their ways out of there. So please be safe out there. I know the weather is getting better
Thank
finally.
you. Yes,
Hopefully
it
things get
is.
better, and happy new year. Stay safe, stay
Happy New
well,
Year
and
too.
yep, and congratulations on all the success, and
Thank you.
looking forward to
Thank you
having you
very
back
much.
on here very soon. And ladies and gentlemen, we were here on Sportswire Radio with the legendary former RUW heavyweight
Okay.
champion of the world, Puerto Rican heavyweight champion of the world, and RUW tag team champion of the world, the legendary C2K Courage to Kill, who is returning to the ring here from our friends over at the RWA later in April 2023. We're also going to see him a part of the Tennessee Wrestling Alliance, also RSPW. He's also, I believe, the general manager there. We've seen some new music. So a lot of great things that C2K has in the pipe. We were honored to share that. My name, again, is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I am the man behind Sportswire Radio. And if you are on sportnarrative.com/player, you can go back to your regularly scheduled programming. We'll be back tomorrow night with the Irish Wonder, Chris Murphy. So very, very excited to be with the Irish Wonder. That'll be about 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. British Standard Time. We'll also have more backyard wrestling coverage with the legendary Vinny Anarchy. That'll be next Tuesday, 3 p.m. John the Rock Jackson, you're going to be watching that very closely. Monday, January 9th, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So there's going to be some big, big interviews again. We have Dustin Hart from CCW up soon, Disciple, the GTM and NSAR world champion. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in here on the number one global radio station. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. Alongside me was the legendary C2K. Thank you, everybody, here for tuning in. I will be back tomorrow. Stay safe, stay well here on the number one global radio station that is Sports Wire